I'm glad they had such a flattering intro, said a lot of nice things, because during this presentation and after it, you'll probably realize that I'm not all those stellar things they said about me. You realize I'm not as smart probably as you guys are, or just a bunch of stuff like that. And rather than just realize how not impressive I am, I hope you guys realize if I could do what I'm about to tell you guys, then you could do it and so much better. So, as was mentioned, let's see if this works, running it off of my phone. I started a company called Scan. And so if you need a company to go to get extra credit on the 4th floor, I'm a student, have a company, you can go report it. There's half credit for your class. Anyways, I started Scan 2 years ago. So I want to kind of paint this like timeline in your mind. 2 years ago, January 2011, yep, I had an idea for Scan. And it was worth nothing but an idea, so like $0, right? Today, about, 2 years and a month later, it's worth $21 million. And so I always hate it when someone's like, oh, I started a company in my garage and now boom. Because I want to hear, like, how did that happen? We created an app. No, like, go back. I'm not that smart. How did you create the app? All of that. So I want to talk as nitty-gritty as possible to help you guys. And so along the way, they asked me not to take any questions during it, but they said it to an entrepreneur, so let's just go ahead and take questions during this. If there's any time where you're like, wait, did he skip something? How did that happen? I'm super rookie, so if you feel rookie, raise your hand and ask a question. If you're a little nervous too, there should be, some people are passing around business cards. On one side of the business card is an Instagram QR code. If you scan that, you'll follow me on Instagram. On the other side, the red side is a QR code, and if you scan it, it'll come up with all my contact information, and the very first button says, text me a question. If you push that button, you can text a question, and I'll give my phone to my wife. If it's a good question, she'll interrupt me and ask the question for you, okay? So again, if you have a question, you should ask it. Otherwise, we're just going to be skipping all over the place. Because the story is from going from our dorm room with an idea to a $21 million business being ran out of Silicon Valley. So, one last thing before we actually get started. This is my first time trying this. Maybe during this presentation or afterwards, you're going to get like these feelings inside you, these urges that just make you want to drop out. And I don't want to be responsible for that. So everyone just do me a favor and just sign the projector right now. I want to see it. Before I can talk anything more, I can't hold this responsibility. Just sign that projector. Okay, it's not my fault, all right? All right. And to kick it off is we're going to hear a little bit from Steve Jobs. And let's see if this works. Okay, I watch this every Sunday because it's borderline religious, okay? And so what Steve Jobs is about to say has played a huge role in this whole 2 years experience.
So
of my
the
life.
thing I would say is when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it, that's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.
So there's two people that are in attendance today. I'm really grateful they're here. Because I was going to talk about them anyways, but because they're here, I might as well point them out. One was Steve Jobs, like super influential, a lot of the stuff he talked about. Has anyone seen the movie Jobs that came out at the Sundance Film Festival? So super hard to get a ticket to. I was given a ticket by this kid named Kenji. Raise your hand. Kenji, very well connected, just, very entrepreneurial, just scrappy, like, is so well connected because he's just a happy guy that likes doing cool things, and so people are just attracted to him. And then speaking of what Steve Jobs just talked about, where like life is yours to do what you want with it. Like everything we have in life. So this brings me to the other person I wanted to embarrass and point out. So Clint in the back, if you could just raise your hand for 1 second. I had no clue you were going to be here today. But do you remember, what was it, 3 weeks you were at my house? Like 3 weeks ago he's at my house, and I don't know what we were talking about, and I don't know if I can like repeat it verbatim, but I remember how I felt when you said it, because you said something along the lines of, Garrett, things are about to change. The way things are now, politics, the education system, that's man-made. Like people before us invented it. The people before us, it's not that they were smarter than us and they just like created these systems, but things don't have to be that way, and things are changing. Anyways, I was just like, oh my gosh, he knows a secret that I don't know. I want to know the secret, like what's about to happen. And then he just stopped talking and like went on to something else and left me with that feeling of, yes, things are about to change. The way things are is not the way things have to be. So this brings me to the beginning of the story. It was way back in 2009 when I wanted to start, because who here is a like fresh return missionary? How long have you been home? Okay, so you've been home 1 month. That's good. Okay, so I had been home about the same amount of time, and my brother's like, hey, you should really get this, get an email address. And I was like, a what? And so, again, I'm founder of this tech company, but I didn't have an email address. And so he's like, you should get an email address. So he helped me set up my Gmail. And then I was on this trip, and I met this girl, and we were in Europe. I met this girl. We wanted to keep in touch, and she goes, oh, well, I'll just find you on Facebook. And I said, on what? I didn't know what Facebook was. So she's like, go sign up for Facebook. Anyway, she had to help me set up my Facebook. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was this picture was taken Christmas Day. By that time, I don't know if we were married or if we were engaged, but I didn't have a smartphone. I remember coming home from my mission and telling my brother, I'm like, man, phones these days are getting too crazy. I just want a phone that'll make phone calls and maybe text message. Maybe, nothing else. I don't want all that other stuff. Anyways, it was Christmas Day 2009 when I finally got my first smartphone. And it came with this little pamphlet saying, with this smartphone, you should download these apps. To download these apps, scan a QR code. QR code is the little code that you see on the business cards I passed around. Anyways, I thought it was some sort of black magic. Like, again, I didn't know how to set up my email, my Facebook, was not tech savvy. My life in high school was sports and girls, and that's about it. Anyway, so I was like, holy cow, how did I scan that QR code and get information from the code into my phone? I was like looking for the connection. I thought it was some sort of black magic. So I didn't know how to use Google. I Googled it and just like got sucked into what is a QR code, how does it work, and my mind just started to run with all the different like potential and everything you could do with these cool little QR codes. And then I was like, all right, I want to create my own QR code and I want people to scan it. So I need to download the app to scan it, and I need a website where I can create my own QR code. And that is kind of where the idea for Scan came in, because there were probably 100 websites where I could have created my own QR code, and probably realistically 300 apps where I could scan my own QR code. But no website was easy enough for non-tech savvy me to create my own QR code, and all the apps were really ugly. I didn't want an ugly icon on my phone. And so anyways, after looking long enough, I just decided, okay, I want to build my own website, and I want to build my own app. Anyways, I didn't know how, so maybe that's where you can relate as well. You have an idea, but you don't know where to get started, and you don't know, like, do you build it yourself or do you have someone else build it? That's about the stage I was at. Anyways, it was the next year when my wife and I got married, and I needed to start making some money. I had never had a job before, but again, I knew I wanted to start building and working on my own ideas. So I started to design logos and websites for other people. And first it was like I designed my own, then I would design some for my family members, and mostly like my focus was just to better and better my skills. Anyways, after building it for a few people and kind of getting my confidence up, I decided I was going to build it for someone else. And they asked me how much I charged, and I said $16. And they kind of treated me bad. They're like, oh, so you must not be very good. All right, whatever. And then the next person asked me how much I charged, and so I said $24 an hour. And again, they're like, oh, so I guess you're just a student, must not be very good. And it continued to go up. And even though I wasn't getting like a ton better, I just found that people were treating me better the more I charged. And so finally it got to the point where I was like, I'm sorry, I charge $100 an hour. And they'd be like, okay, let's do this. And again, they treated me even better. And it finally got to the point where even charging $100 an hour, I was so busy with everybody that needed either a website or a new logo that I just didn't have enough time. But I have this yes man syndrome where I just can't say no to new opportunities. And so I figured, okay, I have a solution. Rather than say no to people, I'm just going to charge ridiculous amounts so they'll say no to me, and then we're good. So I remember the first person that came up to me and was like, okay, we want a website. What do you charge hourly? And I was like, I'm really busy, but I think I could do it. The bad news is I charge $300 an hour, but I know people that are good as me or better that would charge, a quarter of that. And they're like, $300 an hour? You must be really good. Let's do this. And I was just like, you guys are crazy. I just said there's people that are better than me. They can do it for cheaper. And they're like, but if you charge that much, you must be really worth it. Okay. Anyways, it was a good year financially, but more importantly, it was also the year where I was able to develop a lot of my skills. And this is one of the parts where I said, I hate it when people say, so we built an app. And I'm like, wait, like what went into that? And even though it was an exciting day when I had the idea and an exciting day when we first launched the app, these were the more important days where it was just hours and hours and hours where most people, like my friends, were watching TV or just like chilling on Facebook or doing whatever they like to do when they relax. I wasn't. I was learning to code and learning to design so I could build my own stuff. Going to the product, we launched 2 products at first. We launched on, for iOS, doing that, but our focus was doing it better, doing it faster, and keeping it very dead simple so that somebody like me could use it with ease. We launched it into the App Store, I mentioned, January 16th. I remember that because that night I went to a party and I was up, I thought it was so cool that something I could create would be on the App Store. I saw it on my phone, I was screenshotting it, I was so excited. I went to that party, up on the table, telling everybody to download my app, and I was super stoked because I got 12 people that night to download my app. So the next day at our team meeting, in an apartment with me and my 2 other buddies that we ended up building together, I would get together and I was like, guys, check it out. I got 12 people to download our app last night. They're like, you haven't checked the analytics, have you? Anyways, that very first night we had 2,000 people download the app. And then the next day we had 5,000 people download our app. And it continued to go up and up and up until, one more. Okay. Anyways, it continued to go up and up and up until in this chart, at this time we were about 43,000 downloads a day. It just continued to grow until we were getting 85,000 downloads a day. There's only 83 seconds in a day, so we're getting a little more than 1 a second. And then on the picture on the right was our ranking in the entire App Store. And we just watched as it climbed up and up and up. And it was when we passed our first 1 million downloads, so at 3 months is when we passed our 1 million download mark. And honestly, it was like a drop of blood went into the investors' waters because all of a sudden we started to get contacted by these investors from San Francisco and all over the place. And so we went to one of our meetings and actually ended up being with the investors of Angry Birds, okay? So anyways, we walk into the meeting, and before the meeting, I checked my phone. I was like, guys, we are ranked 13th. Angry Birds is ranked 10th. Like, we are right behind them. We should show them this, and so they think we're as legit as their past investment, Angry Birds. So we're in the meeting, we're talking, and I bring it up. I was like, hey, have you checked the rankings? Like, we're pretty high ranked. We're right behind Angry Birds. And they're like, no, Angry Birds is really high. They're like top 10. And I was like, no, yeah, and we're doing pretty good as well. And they're like, no, let's check it out. Anyways, I pull it up, and somewhere between that half-hour meeting, we had bumped above Angry Birds. And they're like, what the heck, you're above Angry Birds? I was like, what? Let me see that. And we had moved across them. It didn't last long. Well, it lasted about 3 weeks, 3 glorious weeks. That we were being, you know, Angry Birds, Facebook, Instagram was like number 16 at that time. It was pretty stellar. Anyways, that's when the craziness of investor meetings came. So, going to that time, question.
You keep saying we. How'd you find your team?
Good question. Okay. So it went from me with the idea to 3 co-founders, Ben Turley, Kirk Wiemet. Ben Turley is a mobile engineer. Kirk Wiemet is a web engineer. And then I myself did most everything design, what you see visually within the products, both on mobile and web. Anyways, I got the product with my design skills and my rookie coding skills to like version 1. And I knew that it wasn't ready for the world at version 1, so I started to look for co-founders that I could build this with. Anyways, I was looking all over. I went to every single event I could. I talked to everybody I could. I told everyone about my idea because I understood that execution is more important than the actual idea. And so most everybody on campus at the time knew that, you know, this is Garrett Gee, this is what he's working on, and he's looking for his technical co-founders. Anyways, there's one club called Web Startup Group. I believe it still exists. And I went to it, and they give you this time to get on stage and like pitch your idea. So I get up on the mic. I'm like, hey, my name's Garrett. This is what I'm working on, and I'm looking for a programmer. Well, the 3 people before me had also got up, pitched their idea, and said they're looking for programmers. And no programmers would raise their hand. So when I got up, it was, this is what I'm looking for. I know there's none here, so thanks for your time. And I sat back down. Anyways, after the event, Ben Turley comes up to me, and he's like, hey, I love what you're working on. Really great presentation. I was like, hey, thanks. What do you do? And he really, honestly, like, all of a sudden got scared, and he looks around, and he's like, I'm a developer. And I was like, oh, okay. I won't tell anyone. Anyways, and that was the first day we met. And at the same meeting, Kirk Wiemet, my other co-founder, got up, and I was like, where do I know that name, Kirk Wiemet? And at the time, I was in this nutrition class with, like, it was one of those with, like, 200 students. And this like random Kirk Wiemet that we had never met would send out these emails and be like, hey guys, I took all the notes, put them into a Google Doc. At the time I was like, ooh, Google Doc, what's that? And he's like, anyway, so you don't need to go to class anymore. The class went from 200 people attending it to like 6 people would attend this class. And the professor was getting really mad, like, why is nobody attending our class? She didn't know that Kirk Wiemet was sending out these Google Docs with everything from the class. Anyway, so when Kirk Wiemet got up, I was like, you're a genius, like, let's talk. And so Ben Turley, mobile developer, Kirk Wiemet, web developer, and then myself doing design for the both. We teamed up. I pitched them on my idea. I was a freshman at the time. They were both seniors, best of the best of what they did. But they saw the potential in it, and you know, if you had asked them today, it paid off for them. But it wasn't just a happy story. I could also tell you 2 names. I won't say their names, but I could tell you 2 guys who I pitched the idea to. They said no, and to date, both of them have probably applied for jobs at Scan 3 times each, probably. But they didn't believe in the vision at the time, and so now that we have the money, I didn't want to bring on people who are just about the money and not more about the vision. That answer your question? Okay, there's another question.
So when this like viral downloading happened, I mean, with just an iPhone app like that, was it people telling each other about it? Was it some sort of marketing, or was it just a self-fulfilling prophecy?
So this is I'll give you like 2 little bits of secret sauce that we did. So one, they'll tell you that there's no like SEO for the App Store, but there really is. If you type in, if you go to the App Store and you're searching for something, it's going to check what is the name of the, so if I checked like, what would be one, like GPS. If I type that in, it would see name of the app, how many apps are there called GPS, and then it would search those. And then it would go to the name of the business, and then it would go to terms and phrases within the actual summary. Anyways, at the time, there were already apps doing what we did, but they were called Red Laser, Bacado, QuickScan, just kind of random names like that. The people weren't tight. Shop Savvy was another one. Anyways, we came in and we took Scan as the name of our app and QR Code City as the name of our business. Then we had the beautiful thing where there were already billions of QR codes around the world, which is like having mini little advertisements saying, download some app that can scan me. So people would pull out their phone, type in the most searched for terms. Number 1 search for term was scan. Number 2 was QR code. We showed up. So within weeks, probably within even the first week, we were showing up at the top of search queries anytime somebody wanted to download a scanner, which was really crazy. Nobody owned the app named Scan. Like, we made our big long list. Like, yeah, obviously Scan would be the best, but it's going to be taken, so let's have plan A, B, plan C, everything. Anyways, Scan was available, and we snagged it. Any other question before I move on? Okay. Oh, we didn't even talk about that. Okay. So at this time, I was getting contacted by these investors, right? And I didn't know. Who's here seen the movie Shark Tank? So that's about as much as I knew about investors, that they're jerks and they want to take your money, and like that's how you pitch them. So when these investors were contacting me, I wasn't too stoked on it, was kind of avoiding their emails or phone calls. And finally, it was when bigger names like Google started contacting us that I was like, yeah, that would be fun. We can take a trip out to San Francisco for that. But at the same time, I was in class full-time and playing for the soccer team. So this screenshot was for my very, very first trip out to meet with Andreessen Horowitz, which is the name of an investor out there. Anyways, I took the plane in, took the taxi. I got there 2 hours early. And so rather than just wasting 2 hours, I pulled up maps on my phone, and I just watched. There's this place in San Francisco called Sand Hill Road, and that's where all the legit investors are. Anyways, I just watched as like pins dropped along the road, and I would look up, and I'd be like, oh, there's tons of investors on this road. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to start meeting with them. So I walked up and down Sand Hill Road. We had a soccer game in Fresno that same week, and so I had my soccer stuff with me. Anyways, so I had my soccer bag, my iPad with our slide deck on it, walking up and down Sand Hill Road. And I would go into a place like Kleiner Perkins and be like, hey, I have a meeting, but it's not for another 2 hours. Is there anyone here I could talk to and pitch my business? And there's always the same gatekeeper secretary that would look at me and just be like, are you lost, little boy? Like, do you not know how this works? And I didn't. And anyways, I probably stopped by 9 to 10 places. Not a single one let me in that first day. And then, to make me feel even worse, I finally go into my meeting with Andreessen Horowitz, and it was one of those, here's our pitch, and I will give you 15% of my company for $300,000. And then I waited, and he just looked at me like, that's not how this works. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I'm going to decide if I like your business, and if I do, I'm going to tell you how much of your business I'm going to take based on how much money you need to run your business. And I was like, okay, sir. Sorry. But as one meeting went well, they introduced me to their friends, and that meeting went well, and they introduced me to their friends. And then soon I was meeting with some really cool people, and it was taking up all my time. But again, I was playing soccer and going to class. So I didn't mind missing class. I was all right with that, but I couldn't miss a single soccer practice. So I would go to soccer practice in the morning, and then I would rush from soccer practice, hop on a plane flight, go take some meetings, and then fly back home for the next day's soccer practice. And then I would hop on a plane and do it the next day. Anyways, during the months of June and July, I ended up taking 55 flights back and forth between Utah and San Francisco to make it happen without really anyone on the soccer team, maybe a few guys knowing what I was doing, and the investors not knowing that I was going back and playing soccer in between it. The guys on the soccer team were really cool and really supportive. I remember we were on a away game trip in California, and there's a strict rule where if you're with the team, you are with the team. No cell phones, none of this. But I'd have these investors calling me, and I couldn't miss those phone calls. So they would put me in the very back seat of the van, throw duffel bags and training jerseys over me so I could quietly take a phone call with an investor. It got so hot in the back of that car with everything draped over me. So I would always think, man, if the investor could see me now, he just thinks we're having this calm conversation. But I'm in the back of a van just sweating my eyes out, trying to handle these phone calls. Anyways, The meetings went well enough that we were able to convince 12 investors that they wanted to participate and be part owners of our business for a total of $1.7 million. And so when I was going back to my rookie days and I didn't know anything about how this worked, TechCrunch for me was a great source of knowledge. TechCrunch is a tech blog. They write about new products, new technologies, and those new businesses, they get funded. Anyway, so I learned a lot from it. So for me, it was like my Hall of Fame. I wanted to somehow, some way, someday be on the cover of TechCrunch. And this is a screenshot from that glorious day when we were able to announce that we had raised the 1.7 from Google Ventures, Shervin Pishavar, and a few others. If you look on our website, the owner of the Boston Celtics is an investor. Lady Gaga is an investor. Some guys from Detroit, and then the rest are in San Francisco. Question?
So having all these meetings with these investors, how do you actually teach yourself at yourself?
So they definitely got better and better as I went on. Like, I would pitch one person. For example, our first meeting when I said $300,000 and they laughed at me, the next meeting, on the way out, he's like, by the way, like, no one thinks about $300,000 twice. You should ask for more money. So the next meeting, I asked for $500,000, and they're like, you have a good product. Why aren't you asking for more? So the next meeting, I asked for $700,000, and then just continued to go up and up until we ended up raising $1.7 million. Not because we needed to, not because I wanted to, but because they were telling me to. So I was like playing their game and just trying to get better along the way. And then as far as, like, you could straight up look at my slide deck, and I think it would be a little bit different. I don't know, I haven't seen too many. But I remember being in an entrepreneurial class at BYU and my professor saying, when you create a slide deck for an investor, you need to dress nicer than they're dressed. You need to do this. You need to do this. It needs to talk about 80% financials and numbers and stats, and then 10% about the team and 10% about the product. I was like, that's going to be really hard for me because I'm all about the team, all about the product, and I'm just not a very numbers-minded guy. And so I tried it. I did what they said, and it just was a mess. So finally I decided, okay, this next presentation, I'm going to wipe out everything that I personally don't care about, and I'm going to talk 50% product and 50% team and not even mention numbers. And that's when they really started to like me because they could just see like the sincerity and the passion and that I cared about it, everything that I was talking about. And I mean, they're smart guys. Like, they know that a good product will eventually lead to financials, and they probably can project that in their minds a lot better than I could. Does that make sense? Good question. Any other questions before we move forward? Okay. And so it was at this time. Actually, so I'm going to say a few more things about the investors, just because it's a really interesting experience that I learned a lot from. Investors, I mean, working with investors was like high school for me, where there's the girl. I got to make sure this sounds right. There's the girl in my high school that wasn't the cutest girl, but everybody wanted to take her to a dance because everybody wanted to take her to the dance. Like, one guy would, and he was like, well, if he wants to, then I want to. And then it would just bubble effect. And it was the exact same thing where investors started wanting to work with us, and they didn't even know why. They just knew that Google Ventures was going to invest, and so they had to invest. Especially as we started to get some more popular names. There was one investor that when he, trying to fluff up his feathers and just bring as much value to the company as possible, he's like, I'm going to invest, but I also want to bring along some of my friends, so I'm going to have them contact you. And so I fly back to Utah, and the next morning I wake up and I have an email from Ashton Kutcher, the contact information of Scooter Braun, and then a phone call scheduled with it was under the name Atom Factory. Anyways, if you do your digging and see who that is, that was the phone call that we had first time with Lady Gaga. Anyways, I go to soccer practice. I was like, guys, I just talked to Lady Gaga. And they're like, no, you didn't. And they wouldn't believe me. And I was like, all right, it's not worth arguing. No big deal. But finally, my wife and I, we go to LA for some family event. And I knew they were based in LA, so I tell them, hey, I'm in LA, and they're like, oh, you should come to this event we're holding. I was like, okay. So they email me the address, and it says, starting at 1 a.m. I was like, what kind of event starts at 1 a.m.? And my wife is like, it's starting at 1 a.m., I don't want to go. And I was like, all right, I'll just go. And last minute, she's like, whatever, I'll go with you. Let's do this. So we go to this address in Hollywood, we pull up, and there's this like building, all the lights off, but there are all these people sitting along the sidewalk, and then this big long line. And we get closer, and all the people sitting along the sidewalk have these like huge cameras on them. And it was like, what is going on? And then there's this huge line with all these hoochie mamas in it. And so we just like hop in line, good little Mormon kids. And we get to the front of the line, and everyone's looking at us like, who are you guys? And even the like bouncer is like, are you lost? And I was like, my name's Garrett Gee. And he's like, oh, okay. And all the other people were like, who are these kids? We go into it, and there's straight up red carpet, this wall with all these lights and all these logos, and then we go into this building. And it was honestly maybe, it seemed like about this size, but it was maybe like twice the size of this. And the walls were just like made of speakers. Like your clothes were just bouncing with the bass. It was super loud. And there was like 2 aisleways, and along it there were these booths. And in each booth, not exaggerating, it was like a movie. There's this like big, nasty man with like girls sitting around him. And I was just like, where are we? And we're walking down, and all of a sudden there was like this fight broke out, and this big like cluster goes. My wife's like, what is it? What is it? Check it out. And I thought it was going to be a fight. And I'm looking, and all of a sudden I like see, and it was because someone had just walked in, and I look at my wife, I was like, that's Lady Gaga. Anyways, it turned out to be the MTV Music Awards launch party. And I was like, that's Lady Gaga. And I turned to tell my wife, and all of a sudden, like, Mary J. Blige walks in between us, and then, like, the Pussycat Dolls were over there. Anyways, we were just lost little starstruck Mormons in this crazy place. But it was, like, the funnest thing ever for us. And, you know, thank goodness she decided to come to that. So we go back to our family little reunion party that we had going on, and the next morning we're like, guys, we met Lady Gaga. And they're like, no, you didn't. And it's just like, yeah, whatever. Okay, so any questions so far? Again, I want to make sure everything I'm talking about is like answering any questions you have and more beneficial to you guys rather than just like story time. Okay, for sure interrupt if you have any questions. Yeah.
Did you have a secretary that used to care about your stuff?
Besides my wife, she really was. She was the one that was like booking all my flights, booking my rental cars, like doing all that crazy stuff. But at this point, we were still just 3 guys. And then when we got funded, that's when we started to hire. So we hired a personal assistant. I thought it would be really cool. I'm a big fan of Iron Man, so I was like, oh, I'm going to hire Pepper Potts. Like, that would be so dope. So we hired a secretary. We hired a biz dev guy, another Android developer. And we actually ended up growing the company to 16 people, which is a story in its own. I'll try to like tell it super brief. But I feel like it's one of the bigger mistakes we've made as a company so far, is we started to act like a business rather than a startup just because we thought we should. Like, we got funded, and it's like, all right, time to act like a business. We should have meetings and do payroll and other legit stuff that, you know, seems appropriate, and do human resources and other big words. And it was a mistake just because, like, that's not what the product needed. That's not what, like, the company needed. So unfortunately, I learned the lesson and had the very hard job to clean up my mess, which meant I needed to trim the company and get back down to bare minimum, just the people we needed. And so we thought, okay, like, let's think out of the box. How should we do this? We decided to fly everybody, whether they're working in Provo or San Francisco, all into one location and do this cool, we called it a hackathon, where the whole company came together and we all worked straight for 52 hours. We tried to make it fun. We had like a chef come in to cook us breakfast and meals. We had a masseuse come in, so guys got stressed. We just whatever fun stuff we could think of. And then we wanted to use it, and everybody knew this. We wanted to use it to kind of not rate people, but decide who do we need to keep and who do we need to let go. Anyways, that weekend we had 16 guys there, and we fired everybody except for 1 guy. And so I hated it. And a lot of people think I'm a bad person for doing it, and I don't blame them. I feel personally like if I were a better boss, if I were a better CEO, that wouldn't have had to happen because I could have managed them better and we would have been more productive altogether. But I wasn't at the time ready for that, and so we ended up letting go of all those people. Yeah?
Kind of related to that question. You know, before you started getting all the investment in,
Mm-hmm. So the app was free and the website was free as well. So the product wasn't making any money for us 55 flights in 2 months was really expensive, and so to pay for that, we entered some business plan competitions. We did BYUs. We went to nationals. We lost BYUs, by the way. We took second place, but that gave us, I think, like $13,000 or something. And then we went to Rice Business Plan competition, and we ended up doing really well and winning like 5 categories in that one, which got us about $30,000. Anyways, from the time I started raising money and taking all those flights till we closed our round of funding, I spent all that money in those 2 months because we had $2,000 left in our bank account by the time we finally closed the $1.7 million. So, yeah, competitions like that. Any other questions before we move forward? So this is an office. Again, what happens when you give kids a bunch of money? They just get creative with it. And so I started looking around. This is our Provo office, and I started looking around, and there's a bunch of the same old, like carpet, cubicles, stuff like that. But I knew what I wanted. And then there was this old building that didn't look like this at the beginning. It was an old, rundown, out-of-business furniture store, super dusty. But I saw the potential to become this. So I remember telling the real estate agent, okay, perfect, we found it. And he was like, really, of all the nice places we saw, this is the piece of garbage you want? But we, spent the next few weeks, we ourselves, redid the floor, did the ceilings, dusted it out, and then filled it with that furniture. And now that is our Provo office. What time, Professor Lee, what time does this go till? Okay, good. Okay, so I want to show you another clip then.
The first step before anybody else in the world believes it is you have to believe it. There's no reason to have a plan B because it distracts from plan A.
So a lot of, they're just like there's different types of students, different type of entrepreneurs, there's different types of investors. And we wanted to work with the investors that we have very specifically because of how unique we like to run things. A lot of investors will be like, you need a plan B, you need to report on this, you need to have projections 5 years ahead of you. And to me, I don't know what we're going to be doing that far ahead, and so that to me is a waste of time. And then even plan B. Plan B to me, just like Will Smith said, is nothing more than a distraction from our plan A. And so really I would hope that if there's if there's only one thing that you would learn from any of these stories or this presentation, it would be a combination of what Steve Jobs talked about and what Will Smith talked about, where life, there's so much to life and there's so much opportunity out there, and the only thing that can hold you back from it is yourself. A lot of people think I'm crazy for wanting to be a full-time student so I can play on the BYU men's soccer team and run this company at the same time. But to me, I just weed out the watching TV or doing, taking naps during the day, getting 8 hours of sleep. I just weed that stuff out of my life so I can spend my time doing the stuff I love. And I love it. I love life. I love the opportunity out there. And so, just when I was preparing for this, that was the one thing the message I'd want to get across, is that whatever you would ideally want to do, stop thinking that it's just a dream or just a goal, but that it actually is achievable. Don't do a plan B just because it's going to distract you. And that's life, that you can change things, and all the rules or obstacles that you think are in front of you are most of the time just made up by other people. And so the very last thing, I want to break another BYU record and be the first person on stage to talk about Kesha at BYU. Who here knows who Kesha is? Who here doesn't know who Kesha is? Oh, you don't know who Kesha is, Professor Little? Later, I'm going to send you. I don't think you could open up her music video on BYU campus, so wait till you're home. And then you got to check out Kesha, okay? Okay, so I hate Kesha's music. But I was talking to somebody who's in the entertainment industry, and I was like, Kesha came up, and I was like, what is the deal with Kesha? And they got very serious, and Kesha is one of the most respected people in Hollywood. There was no way Kesha could fail. You went to any audition, and it was like, they actually mentioned two people, Katy Perry and Kesha. And it was just like, I'm going to go to an audition, and you're going to see Kesha because she's just some girl who will not give up on her dream. Like, she didn't have a plan B. Her option was, I want to be famous, and I'm going to just go at it until I became famous. And in that way, Kesha should be a role model to all of us. Anyways, thank you guys.